Ladies and gentlemen, I got the talented, the wonderful, the great Tito Puente Jr. in the building. Hey, partner.
I had to do a cowbell, right, Bobby?
Yeah, you know. How you doing, man? Good morning to you. How you doing, man?
My name is Tito.
I know.
Yeah, it's tough, man. We hanging in there.
That's pretty much what you're doing down there right now. For those who don't know, he's in Florida down there in Miami. And he's, like you said, he's quarantined Tito down in there, you know. But it's good to see you, man. First of all, you're looking good and you sound good, and we're glad that everything is okay with you, man. How proud are you of your sister knowing that she's an Emmy Award winner, man?
Man, it was incredible seeing that, and I'm very proud of her. She works really, really hard. Even through I seen her from high school all the way to presently, and she is a hard worker. I'm proud of her, and the Puente family couldn't be more happy. I'm sure my father's up in another dimension watching his beautiful daughter win that Emmy. So Emmy Award winner Audrey Puente, I'm bragging about it.
Man, I have to tell you, man, speaking to her and speaking to you now, I could just tell that y'all just probably had the best time growing up together. Now, actually, for those who don't know, you're actually originally born and raised in New York City. Where in New York y'all was born and raised at?
I was born in Metropolitan Hospital, and my sister was born, I believe, the same one. So we're right there from Manhattan. We're up in we were like the Puerto Rican Jeffersons. we moved on up, and then we moved back up the city. We moved up to Rockland. But, we started out in Manhattan, and then we moved on up. But it was cool being born and raised in New York City. New York will always be my home. I guess I'm semi-retired here in Florida.
Right. I know, that's the retirement place.
yeah. But it's easier for me to travel to Latin America because I'm, of course, performing the music of my late father. And Audrey, of course, does all the weather in New York City.
Tell us about your father, Tito Puente. For those who don't even know who he is, it's a history with your father and your family. We'll come to you in a minute, but for those who don't know, please tell us about your father, the great Tito Puente, and growing up, just watching your dad, Tito Puente, the musician. Please tell us a little bit about it.
Well, Tito Puente, for those who don't know, was an icon legend of Latin music worldwide. They call him the king, el rey de los timbales, the king of Latin music, the king of the timbales. Mm-hmm. He was a percussion player who really was instrumental in the design and sound of what you hear today of salsa music and mambo music. Right. And he created that whole unique style and sound for the 1950s at a nightclub called the Palladium, and all the way through his passing in 2000. But you guys can see him throughout movies. He has over 186 albums. Yes. To his credit, he's a 7-time Grammy Award winner, 14 nominations. He has a star in the Hollywood Walk of Fame. He was on one of the Simpsons, the Simpsons show. Who shot Mr. Tito Puente, yes. White-haired man. I don't know if you guys can see it on the Zoom, but that looks like.
Yes.
But he was an incredible Latin ambassador of Latin music worldwide, and he worked a lot along with the Queen, Miss Celia Cruz. There was a king. Tito Puente, Celia Cruz, iconic legends around the world, and born and raised in Spanish Harlem, New York City.
There you go. That's right. Now, actually, now you done broke that down. What moved you in a direction? Was it because of the fact that you watched your father play with musicians and probably went to all the shows that he's done? And like you said, work with Celia Cruz and a lot of other great musicians. What moved you in that direction? Did you like feel that at the beginning, watching your father say, that's what I want to do? I want to follow in Dad's footsteps?
Yeah, Bobby, when you're a kid, they always say, your parents tell you, don't touch these things. So my dad had a lot of timbales and drums in the garage, and he said, don't touch my drums. And as a little kid, what do? You go and start banging on them. Yeah. So that's basically how I got into it. But I was always into pop music and rock and hip-hop. Being born and raised in New York City, different genres of music were always coming in. I'm an 80s kid, so I love the Michael Jackson, the Phil Collins, the Kool and the Gang. I love the rock of Bon Jovi. I loved everything. But that music was something that it was instilled in me as I traveled with my father as I got older as a teenager. And then I would go around the road with him. And that's why I kind of figured out that whole mambo music and Latin music and salsa world was just something incredible. And he was bringing it to the Far East, over to the Orient, over to China and Japan, and to Indonesia, countries that didn't even know the language. Right. And that really was impressive to see, and that's why I kind of gravitated towards the Latin music and that clave rhythm that makes people want to dance.
Right, exactly. Now, when your father was amongst us to living at the time that when you was growing up, did he want you to go in that direction, or was he looking for like, okay, this is what I do, I want you to have fun? But was it another avenue or profession that your father may have wanted you to do beside, following his footsteps?
Yeah, he didn't really care for the music I was listening to at the time, because I was playing as a rock drummer. I was a drummer first with the Trap Kids. I was playing with a heavy metal band, and he was kind of confused. But I went there. He was like, "What are you playing? You're on beat, man."
Right.
But he gave me the tools, which were the drums, and he made me go to school and of course take drum lessons and do all that. I did not learn from my father how to become the band leader that I am today.
Right.
He actually said, you got to go on the road and listen and watch me and see how I do it. And it was great. It was a great tool and schooling method to be around such a genius like him and traveling around the world and seeing how he worked his orchestra. He worked with 13 men on stage, and it was just incredible how he did it. And that's what really I kind of gravitated towards his type of music later on in my career. But no, he never told me how to play drums. He said, listen, you do what you want, be a lawyer, you could be a weather person. But Audrey took that route, and I took the musical route.
Right.
And that's how we ended up.
So you mean to tell me you didn't want to be a weatherman?
No, I didn't. I was trying. I was trying. I just couldn't get through. I couldn't get through that math.
That's what I was saying to her. I was saying that we were terrible at that, so we definitely. But now, actually, when you put out your first album, because you actually signed to EMI Records at the time in the very beginning of the 90s, and you put out a classic song that first of all, I'm from New York, Brooklyn, so, when the music was coming our way, when we heard you do the classic Oye Como Va, when we heard, man, I guess growing up to a lot of Latin music, and what would you call the music you was doing at that time? Afro Caribbean? Well, because a lot of people get it confused. You explain what kind of music Tito Puente was doing and introducing to the audience.
Well, Tito Puente, my father was playing Afro-Cuban music, and it was they would called it mambo, salsa, rumba, cha-cha-cha in the 1950s. When we went to the 1970s, they used the terminology called salsa. Then when I was doing my record, I did one of my father's classic called Oye Como Va, in which Carlos Santana did a rock version. In 1971, I did a remix, and we called it at that time, it was Latin house music.
Right.
Latin house was the fun, and then Brooklyn was one of the places where Latin house was really, thriving. The Bronx and Brooklyn and Queens, all the five boroughs, we loved Latin house music in the early 90s, and that's where I decided to take that song and make it a Latin house version. It charted, it took me around the world, and I'm glad that my father enjoyed it because I got him to play on the record too. Yeah. So that's what made it even more, special. And I gave him a kiss on the cheek, and he told me, "Your kisses are very expensive."
I know at that time when you put out the music, I'm sure your father, because, you see that he was definitely happy and proud of what his son was doing. But how was you feeling once you saw that you had success on your own? Because, a lot of people would always say, oh, he's just, Tito Puente Jr.'s father. But you had to prove to people, yeah, that's my father and I carry his name, but this is what I do. How proud was you, or how did you feel knowing that I finally broke through and people know me as Tito Puente Jr.? And
I think it was tough, Bobby, being the son of a Latin legend like that, and an icon and a child prodigy and a genius in his own right. My dad had 10,000 compositions, and he was just a composer, arranger, and producer. So it was intimidating. But when I was doing Latin house music, it was funny because he didn't know what house music was. He was like, my son's doing house music, whose house? In whose house? And it was great that I got the recognition, and we won a Billboard award the same year he won for his record with his Latin jazz music. So it was kind of almost like validating for me, and he was impressed by the way the transition of music was happening at the time in the early 90s and into 2000. So before that was right before his passing. It was only about 10 years before that, but he saw how the way Latin music was being recognized around the world with what I was doing, and he was proud of that, and I was proud of him, and we'll always remember him as being the writer of that song. And he really, opened up the doors for myself and Carlos Santana and all the Latin artists that are out there that you hear around the world.
Exactly. You're absolutely right on that. That's definitely a valid point. So what do you think about the combination of hip hop and Latin music being emerged today? What are your thoughts on that?
I love it. I love the new reggaeton styles and the new trap music and the music that's coming out now for the younger generation. I'm glad that they're appreciating the music that Tito Puente had, that Celia Cruz left on this planet, and they make sure that those people get recognized. And that's basically what I've been doing for the past 20 years since my father passed away, is to push the kids today and the youth of today to remember who the great titans of Latin music and the icons and the legends that really paved the way for us, the pioneers, Tito Puente, Celia Cruz, Johnny Pacheco, Machito, all the whole Fania era, the whole Palladium era. It's really important that the kids today remember that, and I see that they are remembering it, especially the mambo dancers.
Yeah, exactly. Wow, you just said something that was crazy. You said the Palladium days. Wow, you're a New Yorker. Real.
I'm real. The original Palladium. I think it's a parking lot now, but yeah.
Yeah, right, exactly. Right.
Yeah.
He said it's a parking lot.
Yeah,
only in New York City. So what is happening now with Tito Puente Jr.? What can we hear from you? Because a lot of people that they listen to the old project, the old work, but they want you to keep pumping new music out like every month. What's happening with you now musically?
Bobby, I'm doing a tribute to my father. I've been working on it since the beginning of the year. 20th anniversary. He passed away May 31st, 2000, and it's been 20 years this year.
Yes, sir.
Especially during this quarantine and pandemic, I thought it would be great to take this opportunity to spend some time in the studio, simply because I'm not on the road, and do this tribute record, which I'm almost completed and done with. I'm happy to say that it's going to be coming out next year, but it is a completed project, and we're also doing a documentary series on the life story of my father, working with Mr. Edward James Olmos on that, the actor. So that'll be out late next year. I'm excited. It's great because we're going to have an 8-part series of just the story of Tito Puente's humble beginnings in Spanish Harlem, New York, and being Puerto Rican descent, growing up and raised in Harlem, mixing the two worlds of jazz music and Latin music. And we're going to talk about all the Afro-Cuban music in this docu-series. It should be out next year. I'm excited about that too. So a lot of great things happening for 2021. I'm excited about it. And so then I will be continuing going to the studio every week and keep pumping out these songs.
Yeah, man. Well, we're looking forward to that. Do you see you or your father or his grandfather in your son?
That's a good question. Well, my wife says, look, talent skips a generation, so our kid is going to do great. I think he's good. I think he has a lot ahead of him, and he's very good with drawing right now. But I try to do well. Right now, we're not really doing too many concerts. But next year, he's just only 12 years old, so he's young. But I want him to have that passion, and he knows who his grandfather was, and he likes mambo music, I think. Right. So I'm gonna get him. Hopefully, he'll get into it, man. But again, I think he'll probably end up being a stand-up comic.
Hey, as long as it works in a family. Now that you done said that, how old was you though when you joined your father on the road?
I was probably in my the late teens, maybe about 17, 18, right there when you get your license at 16 in New York. I had to drive Dad to the clubs. I had to go take him to the Copacabana, the clubs in New York,
Man.
Dude.
You missed the Speaking of Latin Quarters, I was the house DJ for the Latin Quarters. Me and Red Alert and DJ.
Yeah. Well, that was on certain nights. You guys had hip hop nights, and then we had Latin night, and then we had R&B night, and then we had
the Caribbean nights. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I was the DJ.
for that. LQ was the spot, man, and Ralphie Mercado had the whole spot. And my father, I used to drive him there every week. They had a band there.
Yeah, exactly. Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Tito Puente Jr. There you go. The only thing I know is Vamos a la playa. That's all I know from New York hot tracks. That's all I know.
That's all you need to know. The beach, baby. Let's go.
There you go. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to come back with some more music. Thank you so much, Tito Puente Jr.